Hey guys, and welcome back to Exponential DFS. I am Michael, or that guy Expo, joined today by Warrior Legion of Boom once again, and we are bringing you guys another edition of Exponential Sports Talk today on Friday. And what is today's date? It is the
Fifth.
5th, August 5th, Friday, August 5th. Thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for the recent love on our last two and the first two videos for this new concept that we've been rolling out on the channel. We both really appreciate the feedback that we've been getting. So anything you kind of want to lead into the show with, Corey? Anything that kind of stood out to you the last couple days since our last show in the sports world?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to save some of the stuff from later, but probably the big thing that's sticking out to me, and also before I even say anything, we got some really cool new editing stuff that's going to happen on our next few videos, so just look out for that. Our videos should look like 10 times better, and they're going to be a lot cooler to check out. But I think the biggest thing that I've seen so far is the Antonio Callaway news surrounding the UF program. Callaway's the most dynamic receiver they have, and he's finally been cleared to come back and practice, but nobody knows what's going to happen with him as playing. That's kind of just been some big things that I've been hearing lately, just all about him basically, because he's an important piece of their offense, obviously, and if he misses extended time, it could be some trouble for the UF offense. But that's the big thing that I've been kind of hearing in the sports world so far.
I could definitely see him sitting out the first game or two, and honestly, with the schedule the Gators have, I don't think that's going to affect them very much, especially the first game. So, yeah, I mean, that's typically what you'll see with these programs. They'll kind of just bite the bullet and take the one or two games, and then it doesn't affect them anyway because they play cupcakes typically the first couple weeks anyway. So, and that includes the Gators this season. Overall, the Gators' schedule is pretty weak. We'll kind of probably we'll get into an SEC preview in another video, but yeah, definitely the Gators kind of have a weaker schedule this year, so I don't think it's going to affect them too much. Anything else in college football before we get started that I can't really think of much? I mean, obviously the season's going to be getting started before we know it.
The coaches poll came out real quick, and I just want to say, Florida is actually the only team in the history, since they've started doing these polls and ranking teams, they're the only team in the history of college football to win the SEC East and win their conference championship and go to the championship game and be ranked as low as they are. They're ranked 25th, and they've won the East. The East gives Tennessee more love. Tennessee's ranked 10th. And I'll tell you right now, if Tennessee were to play 9 of those 10 teams, 9. All 9 of those teams, I wouldn't play them. So if they were to play all 9 of those teams, I guarantee they would lose to all 9 of those teams easily. Tennessee is 8-42 in their last 50 games against a ranked team. It doesn't matter who they are.
Yeah.
There's just I'm not seeing their love. I don't get it, and again, we'll get into that rant.
In our SEC preview shows, but I mean, to be honest, it probably was weird, but I was almost surprised to see the Gators in the top 25. I understand they won the East last year. I get it. I was just, even as a Gators fan, I've gotten used to the last 5 years or so that we have no love at the beginning of the year. Even last year when we had that phenomenal season, no one expected the Gators to do well. They weren't ranked and even when they beat Ole Miss when they were 4th, the Gators were still only 25th. And I mean, it's we'll get into that, but I mean, I think the most shocking thing to me was Tennessee getting a first place vote. It almost made me want to vomit.
Yeah, they got 251 first place votes too in the SEC Media Day. Shows no love. Yeah, no love for our team. Anyway, though.
All right, so getting into the topic. So, if you've been living under a rock, Russell Westbrook has signed a 3-year deal with the Oklahoma City Thunder. He is now the 3rd highest paid player annually. He's only behind James Harden and Mike Conley. God. I don't think I'd ever say Mike Conley is the highest paid player annually in the NBA in a sentence before, but he is, and Russell is now 3rd. What are kind of your thoughts on this deal? It kind of took me off guard, especially the fact that it's 3 years because if I'm not mistaken, the cap goes up after this year, so he could have signed a 1-year deal, or he was already under control for this year, never mind. I mean, he could have waited, hit the free agent market, and got more money annually than he's going to be getting.
Yeah, I think this is just loyalty. Russell Westbrook was loyal to his team, and this shows that he shows, hey, I love playing for this team. This is my city now that Durant's gone,
Yeah.
and this is his way of showing loyalty. After Durant left, he's kind of lashed out a little bit. He hasn't really said much, but he has said, he's kind of taken his hidden shots about Durant, saying, I'm loyal to my city, and this proves it. Him not waiting and him saying, yeah, don't worry about me. I'm gonna re-up now, so you guys aren't having to worry about me because I want to play for this team and I'm loyal to my city.
Oh.
That's what it's about.
Oh. That was my phone alarm. Okay. Anyway,
yeah, so
sorry.
That would be his way of showing loyalty, and I like what he did.
Let me make sure I don't have another phone alarm set.
Yeah, I mean,
why do I have this?
The deal was 3 years, $85 million, just in case y'all don't know, and he's getting about 28.3 annually, which, like Michael said, puts him as third highest paid player. I think this is a great deal for the Thunder. I think they made out easily. This is easily. Russell Westbrook could easily make 30 plus
easily
next year with the cap. Yeah,
absolutely.
And yeah, he's top 5 player in the NBA and probably an MVP candidate without Durant. I got his stats right here. Without Kevin Durant last year, he averaged 30 points a game, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists without Durant. That shows you his stats. This is a point guard too. Point guards usually don't take this kind of scoring number. That's insane for a point guard to average 30 points a game.
Yeah, I mean, it's when I was caught off guard because I honestly was expecting Westbrook to not sign anything long term because of the cap increasing. He was going to hit the free agent market and maybe not go back to Oklahoma City, and that's why I was thinking they really need to trade this guy. They really need to get something back because if he walks, they're not going to get anything for it, and he is, like you said, definitely, I would say, a top 5 player. You can make that argument, and I was very caught off guard. I mean, obviously, anyone saying, oh, yeah, he's the third highest paid player, but he's making $28 million a year. I mean, it's hard to complain about $28 million a year, right?
Yeah, especially when you look who's in his category of Mike Conley and James Harden. James Harden's an excellent player, but he's not Russell Westbrook.
To Oklahoma City.
Yeah, and Mike Conley
he's not a $30
start on that.
player.
Yeah, he's not. And honestly, we talked about a couple of times off camera. I don't think any team had the right assets that the Thunder would have made out good in the trade. I think no matter what kind of trade they would have made, they would have been criticized for their trade because I just don't think any team in the NBA has that kind of assets to give up or would be willing to give up so many assets to the Thunder.
Yeah, who was it? I think the Celtics were one of the only main teams you could argue.
And I don't even think they had enough assets for them because they already had Isaiah Thomas. Why you don't want Isaiah Thomas and Russell Westbrook in your backcourt? They're tiny, and they both need the ball a lot.
Shoot a lot.
They
are ball. I wouldn't describe either of them as ball distributors. They are very much scoring point guards, and it's worked in Boston, and I think Boston's going to be a very strong team this year. I think they're going to give the Cavs all they can handle this year, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, like you said, there weren't a lot of teams that could really make that trade, and I mean, props to Westbrook for staying. I think from a financial point of view, it makes no sense for him, but I think from his point of view, he's still getting paid $28 million a year, and he must love it there if he's willing to stay there and sign a 3-year deal. So all props to him for staying.
Yeah, and the only other team that I thought maybe could have made a run was a lot of people were saying the Timberwolves. I just didn't think the Timberwolves would need to risk their whole future.
No.
I mean, Westbrook's young, but you don't need to give up. Like, they would probably want a package of Chris Dunn, obviously.
Yeah.
Maybe Zach LaVine, and then maybe they probably want Gorgie Dang, too. Why give up all that for... I mean, Russell Westbrook would be worth it, but you don't need a mortgage to future when you already have a good future in place when you're.
And the problem is, you almost have to think of it as a 1-year rental when you're a team trading for him when he's not signed. I mean, you could make the argument now he's tradable, right? You could make that argument because of the 3-year deal. I mean, I saw someone on Twitter. I forgot who it was. I think it was Draft Cheat or someone in DFS that said that this makes him more tradable, which. I mean, it's hard to argue it makes him more tradable. I mean, now you have him under lock for 3 years. You'd be more willing to give up your young talent for him, knowing it's not a 1-year rental. So I could see the argument. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's going to stay now. But yeah, I mean, if for whatever reason Oklahoma City does absolutely atrocious this year, and you get to the offseason next year, and they're not in a way that they can actually improve. In between seasons, it's not the craziest thing in the world to think that it's a possibility.
And maybe the contract thing is Russell Westbrook just taking a home team discount and him just not saying it because he's going to say, okay, next year's class is loaded. I'm going to take less. Go out and get me a good player that I can compete, that can help us compete and win now. Because I know Russell Westbrook has probably more heart than any player I've seen in the NBA. I cannot think of anyone off the top of my head. He plays with so much heart. I mean, he'll do anything to win, and I could see him taking a home team discount just to.
I think he absolutely did.
Oh yeah,
the deal makes no sense otherwise, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, all right. So next topic, Ichiro. So again, if you haven't been paying attention to Major League Baseball, I believe he's still 2 hits shy of 3,000.
Yes.
I haven't gotten any notifications that he hit 3,000 as of when we're recording this video. So he's at 2,998 Major League hits. He will be obviously hitting 3,000 this year. It's been odd because they've been not playing him as often lately, I think, because they're trying to rest him up a little bit, because they're actually having a chance to make the playoffs this year, which is amazing to say that the Marlins have a chance to win the wild card. So kind of, obviously the debate here is, there's no debate around the 3,000 hits in Major League Baseball. That's a great achievement. Not many people have achieved that. I think the argument here is the him versus Pete Rose most hits ever debate, because I believe Pete Rose, I think it was 42.56 was his final record for hits. 42.56. And Ichiro will have obviously 3,000 this year in Major League Baseball, and then he had roughly 1,300, I believe, in Japan. So that puts him over the 42.56 number. So the debate here is, I don't think the debate is who is the best all-time hitter, but do you think Ichiro has the most hits? Like, what is the debate here on? I mean, Pete Rose, all his hits obviously came in Major League Baseball. Ichiro had 1,300 in Japan, and then he's going to have the 3,000 plus here. How do you view that argument?
I can honestly see this argument both ways, but I'm more of the side that they shouldn't count, because, I mean, obviously getting that many hits total, that's insane. I mean, obviously only Pete Rose has done it. You know, all props to him. I give him all the credit. You know, it's just the only problem I see is when, say, if like an international basketball player comes over, they're not going to count all the points he scored in international league and in the NBA. They separate them. It's because the talent level isn't the same. You know, and I know Japanese, you know, they're kind of up and coming in baseball, but they're not as good as America. You know, I'm not saying we're the greatest either, but we're definitely loads better than they are. So
I mean, Major League Baseball. I mean, America, no.
Major
League Baseball, absolutely.
That's what I'm talking about. That's
NBA the same way. I mean, you can argue some of the Euro League is decent as well, right?
Yeah, they're not anymore.
But they're not close.
You're seeing it in the Olympics, how USA is just dominating every team, because that's what we do. We're just that good at basketball anyway. I think it's a great achievement what he's done. I just don't think they should count. I mean, I get it.
Either.
I could see both ways of people arguing, because it is hard to get, hits in baseball. Obviously, we've talked about it's more of a defensive sport.
Right.
Great achievement, great thing that he's done. I just don't think they should count.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, obviously, like you mentioned, the talent in Japan is up and rising. It's been good. We see that by all these players coming over from Japan and signing huge contracts in the United States. I mean, Daisuke, Ichiro, I believe Kenta Maeda was in that league as well over there in Japan. So, I mean, and the talent is pretty good there. But I think when you talk about there are some prime talents there compared to the overall talent in Major League Baseball is so much better. You're just facing solid pitching no matter when you're playing, and including bullpens. I mean, you could argue even Ty Cobb that had like 4,100, you would view him as more than Ichiro.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think Ichiro is definitely, obviously, in the top 5, and maybe even better all time for hitting here. I mean, it's just, if you include kind of the Japanese, like the hits in that league kind of as an afterthought, as like an extra add-in, it's like, oh, well, he also had 1,300 hits over there because he didn't play all his years in Major League Baseball. Imagine what he could have done if he was here. I mean, do I think he would have done as well? Probably not as well, but he's obviously proven that his talent is outstanding, and he probably would have been one of the top, if not the top, here. So, I still think Pete Rose is king when it comes to that, and I think you could even make the argument Ty Cobb is still up there above Ichiro and among others. So I think that's, to me, an easy argument that I don't think the hits are should be like considered right there with the major league hits. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
I think this is probably going to be Ichiro's last year because I think he's going to hit the 3,000 milestone and that will be it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's getting very old, so I think. Yeah, I don't know. Would he have broken Pete Rose's record if he played all his seasons in Major League Baseball? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, when you think about the years he played in Japan, that he racked up basically the 1,300, and he'll be at. I mean, he's going to be at the 3,000 plus, the 1,300, and he still has like 2 months left this year. That's barely beating Pete Rose.
Yeah.
And he had 1,300 of those hits not here. So, I mean, obviously that Pete Rose number is amazing, and that we'll discuss this in another video about Pete Rose because there's a lot we can talk about Pete Rose, kind of his inclusion back into baseball. We saw at the All-Star game that was pleasantly surprising to me. Should he be in the Hall of Fame? Things like that we'll definitely get into in other videos going forward. Yeah. All right, so the next topic that I'm especially excited to discuss is the Patriots' record. We're going to talk about kind of the first 4 games when Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the starting quarterback over Tom Brady, but also kind of their overall season outlook. Quickly go over without much research, just kind of going off gut on how we think their record is going to be when they finish the year. So obviously we haven't seen Jimmy Garoppolo a lot. He's expected to be, and this is the thing about the Patriots, in my view. We've had this happen before where they have a backup quarterback that they're really selling. He's going to be the next guy after Brady. I mean, Matt Castle was that, right?
Yeah.
Everyone thought, oh, Matt Castle's going to be the guy after Brady. They're going to keep him there. And look what happens. He's gone, right? And then he does okay in Kansas City, but not good. And obviously we found out he wasn't the quarterback that we thought he was probably going to be. So wasn't there another guy that New England had like that? I'm trying to think. It was Matt Castle, and I'm trying to... Who's the backup that's been getting paid millions and millions and millions of dollars like everywhere he's gone? I can't recall his name. I'm having a blank here.
Well, the only other backup that comes to mind that's like that is Matt Flynn, but he don't.
Yes, that was Green Bay though. So it's a similar situation.
Yeah,
that's why I was thinking about it. That's a similar situation that he was behind Rodgers. Everyone thought he was going to be the next guy after Rodgers, and he sat behind Rodgers, learned all this stuff, and then he hasn't been able to play quarterback. I mean, he hasn't been able to play, but he's been getting paid a ton of money to just sit on the bench. That's the other example. So kind of the Castle and Flynn, similar situations. Castle's a better quarterback than Flynn, but
yeah,
very similar, I would say, situation. So anyway, jumping into the first 4. So obviously they play at Arizona, Miami at home, Houston at home, and Buffalo at home. So I think the advantage here is obviously 3 of their first 4 games are at home, which will really help Garoppolo a ton. So at Arizona, do we both kind of agree they have no chance of beating Arizona?
I wouldn't say they have no chance, but that would be their lowest chance to win. Honestly, Arizona's pretty hyped up this year, and they actually got picked to win the division this year. I'm just not sold on Arizona completely. Carson Palmer had one really good year, and he's just... I mean, Carson Palmer's not that good, and it was just kind of one of those fluke years that you have.
We'll see. I mean, obviously it's Seattle or Arizona in that division all day, and I mean, we're both Seattle fans, so it's hard for us to be a little impartial on this. But I mean, when you look at the talent Arizona has, I mean, you look at David Johnson's a stud. They still have, I mean, Larry. Like their receiving core is insane. David Johnson's a stud. Palmer played extremely well. Their defense is solid.
I mean, the receiving core is not like insane. It's pretty good.
It's very deep.
Their offensive line is not very good, and the other problem I have with them is like their defense is good, and it's very good. But you know, they're the same team as Seattle. If their offensive line doesn't play good, they're kind of screwed. Carson Palmer's had one good year. You know, I'm more of a let me see it some more to believe it. That was just one good year out of it. It's like he's been in the NFL for like almost 10 years. It might even be more. I'm just not completely sold on Arizona. I do think they'll beat the Patriots, but I'm not really sold on them this year, honestly.
We'll do this when we talk about NFL previews too. I don't want to spend too much time on this since we have topics to get to, but yeah, I mean it's and again the way they get around their offensive line is kind of the swing passes to Johnson, almost like runs, let him get out in the open, and he's very talented in that aspect. So we both kind of agree most likely Arizona should beat New England, especially because they're playing in Arizona, primetime game. I think that's going to be tough for New England to win. I mean, it's very possible. You never know with the Patriots, but I think Arizona should take that. Miami, I think, is interesting. I'm not sold on Arian Foster in Miami. I think New England could very well win this game. I mean, my prediction for their first four, I mean, they're at Arizona, Miami at home, Houston at home, Buffalo at home. I think they'll go 2-2 or 3-1. I don't see them going 0-4, 1-3. I really do think they're going to go like 2-2 probably. I think that's a good expectation. I think no one really knows what to expect from Houston because no one really knows what to expect from Brock Osweiler. I've heard negative things that no one really is all that hyped on him. But when you consider that defense and if he can play at least pretty well with D-Hop, I think they have a chance. Just given I think their defense could shut down the Patriots' offense, and that's the only reason why. Buffalo's kind of in a similar boat. If their defense shows up, which they typically do against the Patriots, they have a chance. Their offense obviously is not all that spectacular, but I think if you're a team that has a solid defense against New England when they have Garoppolo quarterback and we don't know what to expect, it's hard to rule them out of winning the game.
Yeah.
So I think I would probably, if I was going to say 2-2, I would probably say they beat Buffalo, and I'll say Buffalo and Miami for now.
I think they beat Buffalo and the Texans. I don't think they beat Miami. Miami plays them close and
they
almost beat them every year. They almost beat them every year with Tom Brady. I think Miami, as long as Miami's offensive line isn't bad this year, which they've had the worst offensive line in the last couple of years, as long as their offensive line can get better and protect Tannehill, I think they actually can win this game.
I'm probably a little bit more on Houston than some other people are.
I'm not really on Houston.
I don't think they're going to have all that great of a year, but I think that against New England, they match up fine in that when Garoppolo is playing. I really think Brock should have a decent year, and I think, obviously their problem is they don't have a running game to talk about.
Well, they just have Lamar Miller. That will help them quite a bit.
Yeah, and obviously, Bill Belichick defenses always typically seem to shut down the number one of the opposing team, and that is some concern when D-Hop. I think they're so focused on D-Hop.
They're going to actually struggle a little bit on defense because I know this is their second year, but their secondary is just outside of Malcolm Butler, it's kind of weak, and I'm actually as a whole having trouble getting on this Patriots team. This is like you'll see like the Patriots team they'll kind of be up down up down up down. They'll kind of have like 1 year where they're bad and everyone says this is the end for them, and they come back up and they do good. I think this might be one of their down years this year. I still think they'll be very good and they'll get into the playoffs easily. Yeah. I don't think they're going to go to the Super Bowl this year. I think this is going to be one of their down years.
This would be a tough. Like when we look at their schedule, even it's. I think their first four, I think we're both in agreement, probably somewhere on 2-2. Yeah. It's possible to me that they could beat Miami, Houston, and Buffalo. I don't think that's out of the question, especially when all are at home. They'll beat Cleveland when Tom is back.
They should,
Cincinnati, it's not a primetime game, so Cincinnati should play them relatively tough, in my opinion. That's a winnable game. At Pittsburgh is a tough game because they have Le'Veon back in that game.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh will give them a whole bunch of problems.
I think Pittsburgh could beat them. At Buffalo, again, Buffalo plays them relatively tough, but that's winnable. Seattle at home on prime time, that should be a great game. At San Francisco, they should have no problem. At the Jets,
that's going to be a tough one.
That's going to be an interesting game. The Jets are very solid, especially when they sign Fitzpatrick again. The Rams, they should beat. Baltimore, they should beat. At Denver, I'm not sold on Denver this year either because Denver doesn't have a quarterback. Jets at home and Miami on the road. So, again, I think there's easily, if you say if they go 2-2 in the first games, I think Cincinnati is a tough game. I think Pittsburgh could beat them. I think Seattle can beat them. And you could say both Jets games are interesting games. Even if they split that's like four losses outside of the first two. So, you could say they could have a 10-6 or 11-5 year, which is not a bad year, right? That should be a playoff year. When you're used to the Patriots going like 13-3, well, again, those first four games, it hurts not having Brady because I think you could argue are guaranteed almost to go 3-1, maybe 4-0 if they have Brady in those first 4. Like it would be almost a lock for 3-0 and a possibility at 4-0. 3-1 and a possibility of 4-0 if they have Brady in the first 4. But now I think you're kind of like, well, they could go 2-2, they could go 1-3. I mean, you don't know. These aren't like you're not sold on Garoppolo when you haven't seen him yet.
Yeah, I think they're obviously their first 4 games. The Cardinals game is going to be the toughest. Outside of that, I think the biggest game they have the chance to lose is obviously going to be that Seattle game. Actually, that's the game I think they actually lose with Brady.
I think Seattle and at Pittsburgh. I think at Pittsburgh is a very tough game.
I think those after the Super Bowl, the way Seattle lost, I think they're going to come out and they're going to be fired up, and I think they're actually going to stomp the Patriots. Not stomp them, but they're going to. I think they'll actually get their revenge win that they've been wanting, because Seattle almost beat them when they were much better when they won the Super Bowl that year. Absolutely. They're not as talented on defense this year. I think Seattle, and the way Seattle's offense played at the end of last year, Seattle's offensive line is anywhere, decent. They're gonna be probably one of the better offenses in the NFL. And not to go along with that amazing defense they have, that's why I think, that's why I'm higher on Seattle than Arizona, because Seattle's offense is much, much better than Arizona's is, as we saw towards the end of the year when Russell Wilson played like he did at the end of last year. So as long as the offensive line stays together, I think Seattle's easily could.
I think if I had to predict a record like right now, I would. And you told me I had to choose their record, but for the end of the year, right now, I probably would go 12-4.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I think 12-4 is a decent prediction for them. Like you said, I think Seattle's a very tough game. I think at Pittsburgh they could easily lose, and then if they split the first 2 games, there's the 4 losses, and then that's not even considering the Jets could beat them. So I think 12-4, 11-5. I don't think they're going to go. I don't think they're going to get 13 or more. I don't. No. I think under 13 easily. Yeah. I don't. If you pick them to go 13-3, that's a very bold prediction, I think, because you could say they lose 2 of the first 4, maybe, and then they only can lose 1 game in that relatively tough schedule in some points. Yeah. All right, so Josh Gordon, opinions on him coming back. Mr. Marijuana, can't stay away from it, wants to keep getting suspended. I love Josh Gordon as a player. I think he's electric. It's just very frustrating that he can't stay on the field and away from the marijuana.
Yeah, Josh, this is stay healthy and not miss any more time. It's a big get for the Browns because they're obviously, we saw what they did. They made that trade with the Eagles in the draft. They're rebuilding, trying to get picks. Josh Gordon in 2013. Listen to his stats. He had 87 catches for 1,600 yards and 9 touchdowns, and he missed the first 2 games of that season too. And that actually led the NFL in receiving yards.
He's electric.
Yeah, and
wasn't that the year they had? Was that the year they had McCown?
Yeah,
Josh McCown.
Yeah, let me look.
Because I feel like that was the year they had McCown, and McCown just kept throwing him the ball over and over and over. That was probably the year they had Josh McCown. Because didn't he play for them and then he went to the Bucs?
Hold on once. No, Josh McCown was on the Bears that year.
He was playing quarterback that year for.
It was. Why are they not showing up?
We should know this. I don't know why I don't.
Oh, they've had so many quarterbacks the last few years. It's like impossible to tell.
I can't even think who was quarterback before Josh McCown.
Johnny Football.
Well, no. Johnny came after McCown, didn't he?
I don't know. They've had way too many freaking quarterbacks. They've had too many bad quarterbacks, let's just say that.
But I think, I think for fantasy this year, he's going to be a stud, too. I mean, the issue is, obviously, the quarterback play there sucks, so it's going to be, he could be a great late steal in a fantasy draft. I don't know how hyped he's going to be for some people.
That Brandon Weeden, that's who it was.
Oh, Brandon Weeden, okay. I forgot Brandon, But I think, I'm excited for him to come back. I hope the kid stays away from the pot and can stay on the football field, because obviously he's very, very talented. Just for whatever reason, he has a very hard time with this. Can't stay away from it.
A lot of players do, honestly. Once they get into that problem, it's just hard for them to stay away from it. You look out with Johnny. Honestly, though, I remember when he was going into the draft and Cowboys fans are so mad they didn't draft him.
Yeah.
They should be happy they drafted him. I kind of thought this. I saw Johnny in college because obviously SEC fan, watched a lot of Johnny. I knew something like this was coming from him, and I'm actually not even surprised that he isn't even in the NFL. I knew his style of play wasn't going to transition to the NFL because he usually spread a spread quarterback doesn't transition well into the NFL trying to be in a pro style offense, and just his off the field stuff he's terrible off the field. I knew he was going to be out of the NFL. I didn't think he'd be out of the NFL this early, but I knew he was going to be out of the NFL.
So is this the end of people playing in the Pro Bowl with Tyler Eifert getting hurt and probably going to be out for the first couple games?
I could see it, honestly, because there's...
If you're a primetime talent, I mean, Eifert is a stud. Like, this kid can play.
He led the NFL touchdowns last year for tight end. He had 13. He had more than Gronkowski. Yeah, it's terrible.
It sucks for him.
Yeah, they lost
for
one
nothing.
of the...
For what? The Pro Bowl?
Yeah, and they
Who
lost...
watches the Pro Bowl anymore? Anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tune in for like I think I watched it for like the first 5 minutes last year. I was like, this is a complete joke. Like it's just it's painful to watch because no one's actually running. They're all like jogging around. It's like they're playing 2-hand touch football out there, and it's pointless. It's not football.
Yeah,
at least the baseball All-Star game is baseball. At least the basketball All-Star game is still basketball, even though no one plays defense, right? But I would rather watch the NBA All-Star game all day long than the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, well, NBA All-Star game is fun to watch them score points because they do 360 dunks, they do windmills, they alley-oop it. It's
even if they were throwing Hail Marys every single play in the Pro Bowl, it still wouldn't be fun to watch.
Football's just one of those sports people like to see people get smacked around because that's kind of half the fun of watching.
What was the most fun moment that we've had in the Pro Bowl the last? I don't know. I think it was within the last 10 years when that puncher got absolutely destroyed. Do you remember that play?
Yeah, the only other play I can think of, too, is last year when Richard Sherman ran the sweep route, and he lost, like, 1 billion yards on it, because he can't run fast.
I think the punter getting lit up, and he just got up, and he was like, yeah, there you go, I got hit, let's go, and then, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
I think this could be a bad
it could be a
thing
start of
for
it.
the
It could be the start of a trend, definitely. I think the best way to compromise it is inside the contract. Okay, you make it to the Pro Bowl, you're going to get extra money, like a bonus, because contracts have a lot of those that nobody ever knows about. Like, DBs will get this many interceptions, you get a bonus. I think the best way to do, NFL get rid of it. They send them to Hawaii still on like a vacation, and they can all hang out, talk, do whatever they do. And then they'll get paid extra money if they make it, and then they just get an award for it, saying, "Hey, congrats, you made the Pro Bowl."
Because why would you even play in the Pro Bowl if you're an NFL player?
They have fun doing it, but nobody likes to watch it. And there's just no point if you're gonna get hurt. I mean, if Eifert misses some games, that hurts the Bengals because he's gonna be because he was splitting time with Gresham over the last few years, and now he's gonna be the primary number 1 tight end. And they lost their number 2.
He's a top 3 tight end in the NFL. Right? I mean, who else? I mean, you have Gronk, right? Obviously, Gronk's number 1. But
Jimmy Graham
tell me, okay, Jimmy Graham
was turning on towards till he got hurt.
The issue is Jimmy Graham last year was not, but
until before he got hurt, like the last couple games, he was starting to get better. And when you go to a team, it takes some time to adjust.
Talented as a receiver, like a receiving tight end. Who else though? I mean, Graham, Gronk, Eifert.
I'd have to.
Martellus Bennett is solid as a receiver, but he's not as talented as Eifert, in my opinion. Eifert is, I think, top 3 when you talk about receiving tight ends. I don't think there's. Jason Witten's a solid tight end, but he's older. And
I could go with Julius Thomas.
Oh, Julius Thomas. Well, he's not what he used to be either.
Jordan Reed.
Oh, Jordan Reed. So
Greg Olsen.
Greg Olsen.
You could go Gary. Greg Olsen is always.
Those are all solid guys. It's hard to argue against any 5 of those guys.
Maybe Gary Barnes too, because he had some monster numbers last year, and the Browns just don't.
Again, I'll have to see more than a year from him. Yeah, those 5 guys, you take any of them, right? Greg Olsen, like you mentioned, Jordan Reed is great.
Jordan Reed's fantastic. He's just a walking mismatch. No linebacker can guard Jordan Reed. Jordan Reed was
all 5 of those guys. Those are easily the top 5 tight ends. I don't know where you rank those 5. I still think Gronk's number 1.
Oh, Gronk's number 1 by a mile. Then you could.
I don't know where you put
Jordan Reed number 2. I would say.
Yeah.
If you're talking pure,
you could argue Olsen up there too as well.
I would take Reed. If you're talking overall tight end, like blocking,
I think you have to start talking about consistency, how long they've done it, because like you said, Eifert's relatively new to doing this well.
But if we're talking just last year, Reed was number 2. I would say last year. just off what he did because he put some insane numbers.
Yes and no, because wasn't Reed out at the beginning of last year?
Yeah, a little bit, I think. Yeah,
and Eifert, like you said, led the NFL in touchdowns.
Touchdowns, yeah. So
just last year, I think he was probably number 2. Last year.
Nah,
I'd passing attack for Cincinnati is scary either way.
I'd be okay with top 5. I wouldn't say top 3.
I'm just talking about last year. Overall, you could argue he's just like 4th or 5th.
Last year, I'd be comfortable saying top 5.
Okay. I honestly think it's probably the second best last year. Overall, I think, like 4th or 5th, because like you said, Jordan Reed and Greg Olsen have been doing it for more years.
Jordan Reed had his breakout year this year. Jordan Reed's just had his breakout year.
Olsen had a fantastic year last year, too.
Yeah,
so.
Olsen always has
Olsen was their only receiving option, to be honest. Yeah. Can we talk about how scary Carolina's going to be this year? Because they get Kelvin Benjamin back.
I think their defense is going to be a little bit weaker in the back end now that they lost Josh Norman, so you could probably expose them quite a bit. Now they go back to the old problem they had before they got to the Super Bowl last year, and that they had no secondary, and they couldn't get over that hump, and now they're kind of back in the hole. Yeah, their offense will definitely be better, but they're kind of stuck in that hump again where, okay, now teams can pass. Their front 7 is insane, but you can just pass all day on this team.
I think their defense is going to fall off a little bit because of no Norman, but I think their offense is going to step up. I mean, obviously they had a top offense last year, but I think when you add your number 1 receiver back in Kelvin Benjamin, I think that's just going to help so much. I think they're still going to win that division easily, and I don't think it's even going to be close.
Yeah, honestly,
the talent in that division isn't even remotely.
It just depends on
anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to depend on how good Cam Newton is.
Atlanta. No.
It's just going to depend on how good Cam Newton is. That's all it's going to depend on how good he plays.
So I have one rapid fire question, I think. I'm trying to remember what I had for you.
Okay.
Okay, so I know you don't watch a lot of baseball, right? My only rapid fire question is, who do you think is going to win the AL East this year? So you have Toronto, Baltimore, and Boston.
The Red Sox.
You do?
Usually.
Okay, because I'm starting to get concerned as a Red Sox fan here because I believe if I'm not mistaken, Toronto and Baltimore are locked up in first. They're tied, and Boston's 2 back.
Yeah, I mean, even if Boston doesn't win that division, they'll get a wild card spot, and
they're not even in the top 2 right now.
They should.
There's some teams. It's getting scary because Houston's playing lights out. It's getting a little concerning, but like if there's any Red Sox fans out there or people that are interested in baseball, trust me. When you look at the Red Sox, they have been struggling on this West Coast road trip. But if you look at their pitching on this West Coast road trip, it's been really good. And that's scary for people that are not the Red Sox because their offense is not going to stop hitting. They're going to pick up again.
Yeah.
And if this pitching staff is pitching like they have been, Pomeranz pitched solid yesterday. Eduardo Rodriguez threw great. David Price, he threw 8 shutout. And then his last start, he threw 7 shutout, and in the 8th he gave up 4 earned because he gave up 2 and then had 2 inherited, and they gave up a home run. But yeah, I mean it's scary. I think the Red Sox should win this division, but that was me as a Red Sox fan, so I kind of wanted to see what you thought on that.
Yeah. Okay, I got 2. These are quicker though. Okay, first one is Leonard Fournette the best running back in the country?
I'm gonna play it safe and say yes.
Okay.
I think he's obviously you can make the case that his offensive line is pretty solid and that's helped.
Yeah,
but I think
just like
he's just talent wise. I mean, he's a man of the boys out there sometimes.
Yeah, and like just the comparisons he gets to Herschel Walker, I thought they were silly. Bo Jackson. I mean, just the vision, the cuts. Just his reads, talented running back. Pure running back standpoint, yeah. I think if you argue all around with the receiving, you could argue Christian McCaffrey because he's almost like a wide receiver playing running back, and he's actually learned. But yeah. And the other question I got, okay, so Tyrann Mathieu signed a 5-year, $62.5 million contract, 40 of it's guaranteed. Overpaid or underpaid? No, not underpaid. Do you think he's overpaid?
I don't think so. I mean, I think the $40 million guaranteed is very interesting. I think
the highest contract to a safety ever. That puts him at
well, is it the highest contract or the highest guaranteed money?
Safety. It's the highest contract for a safety. It's more than Earl Thomas. It's more than Devin McCourty. That's where I'm having the problem is Earl Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, the argument you can make is he does a lot more than just play safety for them, because like most of his snaps actually came out of being a slot corner. I saw last year, so he plays most of his snaps as a slot corner, and then he plays basically the remainder as a safety. I think he's just a lightning bolt for them, and he's a very solid player. I mean, he was a steal for them in the draft, and I thought he was a steal for them in the draft when they got him where they did. I mean, honestly, I don't really know why he fell that much. I mean, I think his size was an issue.
He got kicked off LSU. He got kicked off the team.
Well, that too.
That makes you worry. When you get kicked off the team for a drug problem, just like Josh Gordon did.
True.
That's where they have the problems. It's when the drugs come and look what happened to Larry Tunsil, #1 pick. He falls like 13.
True.
I mean, it's just drug problems just scare the hell out of NFL teams.
They do.
I don't understand why he fell to the third. I thought he would go in the second, but yeah. I like his contract. I'm having a problem with him getting paid more than Earl Thomas. That's where I'm having the... See, people say he's a better safety than Earl Thomas, and that's where I'm having the problem.
I don't think he's a better safety. I think just given the fact that he is, you could argue, a very, very strong shutdown slot corner. Yeah. I think that's huge because, like we've talked about, slot wide receivers, they're very difficult to cover because they're typically very quick. And not the biggest guys, but they're extremely quick. And I think when you have a guy like Matthew that can line up with them, and especially against a team like the Patriots, he's essential. If you don't have a great slot corner against the Patriots, you're going to really struggle.
Yeah.
Really, really struggle. Yeah. And I mean, I think I like the contract. I think the guaranteed money is very high. But again, I don't really have an issue with the deal. I think Earl Thomas is a better safety. But I think overall, I really do like the deal. I think I lost Corey. I think he froze. So I'm just going to go ahead and wrap up the show. We hit over the 40-minute mark, which is a little longer than we had hoped. So thank you guys very much for tuning in. Leave any comments with questions that you have for us. Leave a like, a thumbs up if you did enjoy the video. Thank you very much. Look for another upload next week. We appreciate the support. This has been Michael, or that guy, Expo from Exponential DFS. Sorry about you guys hearing that sound, but he's trying to call me back so we can jump back in. But thank you very much for tuning in. Again, thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your grandmother, tell someone about the show. Thank you very much. It's been Michael, that guy's Bo. Peace, guys.
HBK, yeah, you know how we. And I can't quit, all I know is gang. HBK, yeah.